When you're staring at a lawn that looks more like a patchwork quilt than a manicured carpet, it's easy to feel stuck between, I need a mower, and I don't want to spend the whole weekend pushing a gas guzzler around the yard. That hesitation is real, especially when the market is flooded with everything from cheap push-type robots to high-end models that promise to trim your grass while you sip coffee. I'm here to break down whether the Husqvarna 520H EPOS Automower actually lives up to the hype and whether it's a smart spend for your specific situation. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what a robotic mower has to do to earn your trust. It needs to handle the everyday quirks of a suburban yard. A few flower beds, a couple of trees, maybe a dog that loves to chase the mower's wheels, and the occasional patch of taller grass after a rainy week. The 520H is marketed as a model that can handle up to 1.25 acres, which puts it squarely in the medium-sized category. That size bracket is where many homeowners start to feel the pinch of traditional mower labor. If you're anything near that footprint, you've probably already calculated that mowing takes up a few hours every weekend, and you've wondered if you could outsource that to a machine. One of the first practical questions that pops up is the installation process. Unlike a cordless electric mower that you just pull out of a bag, the 520H requires you to lay a perimeter wire around the area you want it to stay in. That sounds daunting until you realize it's a one-time effort, and the wire is designed to snap into place with simple pegs. In my own experience setting up a similar model, the layout took me about 2 hours, and the biggest trick was making sure the wire stayed taut around the driveway curb. If your property has a straightforward rectangular shape, the process is almost painless. However, if you have a lot of winding borders or steep drop-offs, you'll need to spend extra time mapping the wire and possibly adding extra safety sensors. Speaking of safety, the EPOS, Electronic Positioning System, navigation in the 520H is a step up from the older random pattern mowers. Instead of zigzagging without a plan, it builds a map of your yard and follows a more efficient route, which translates into less battery waste and a quicker job overall. For a typical family with kids and a dog, that means the mower can run quietly in the early morning or even late at night without startling anyone, and it automatically stops when it detects an obstacle. The sensors are also smart enough to lift the blades if someone tries to lift the unit, adding an extra layer of safety if you have curious toddlers. Now, let's get into the day-to-day experience. Once the boundary is set and you've programmed the weekly schedule, the 520H essentially disappears. I've heard homeowners describe it as the silent partner that shows up every evening and leaves a carpet of even grass behind. The cutting height is adjustable, so you can set it to a range that's comfortable for your grass type. Usually somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 inches works well for most cool season lawns. Because the mower cuts a little every day, you end up with a healthier lawn that's less prone to that dreaded turf striping you get when you only mow once a week. On the downside, the upfront cost is something you can't ignore. A robotic mower in this size class typically runs into the high three-figure range, which is a bigger initial outlay than a standard push mower. The value proposition, however, comes from the time you save. If you spend, say, 3 hours a week on mowing, that adds up to over 150 hours a year. Multiply that by a modest hourly rate, just the value of your own time, and the break-even point comes sooner than many expect. Still, if you're on a tight budget or you only have a small, perfectly flat lawn, the investment may not make sense. Another practical limitation is terrain. The 520H can handle moderate slopes, but anything steeper than about 20 degrees starts to challenge its traction and sensor algorithms. If your yard has a steep hill or a lot of uneven ground, you might find the mower stalling or taking longer routes to avoid the incline. Also, because the unit is designed for regular, light cuts, a thick thatch layer can cause the blades to jam more frequently. The solution is to give the mower a manual assist every now and then. Just lift it out, clear the debris, and let it resume. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a maintenance step you should be aware of. So, who should actually consider buying this machine? If you own a suburban home with a lawn ranging from half an acre to the full 1.25 acres the mower can cover, and you're looking for a set-and-forget solution that reduces the physical strain of mowing, the 520H is a solid match. It's especially